Greetings, I'm Walter Scott Slocum. I'm called Scott, and I'm 78 years old, and I'm looking forward to sharing my story with you this morning. I grew up near and on the Atlantic Ocean virtually all my life. My father was an avid sailor, and we spent many summers on the water. So when I graduated from Princeton in 1968, with the Vietnam War going on, and the obvious opportunity that was going to be afforded us to serve in the military, I, without any doubt, joined the Navy. I joined the Navy with the thinking I would serve for a couple of years and then find another career. However, I found I loved ships, and I had a great deal of respect and admiration for the crew members I served with. I made the Navy a career. I served for 30 years and retired as a captain in 1998. As I neared the end of my career, however, the admiral I worked for wanted me to continue to serve. I could not serve in uniform since there is a mandatory requirement to retire at the 30-year point. So she offered me a civilian job in a comparable role. I took that offer, but she also observed that it would take some time to create a job description, fund the position, and then go through the recruitment process. I had time on my hands, several months actually, to do whatever I wanted to do. I read a book by William Broad called The Universe Below. It was a fascinating study of the deep ocean. I was consumed by what I was learning. He talked, for example, about deep ocean vents, thousands of feet deep in the water, that emit water temperatures of over 600 degrees, and the water doesn't boil because the water pressure is so high. It's also very sulfurous, so things that we would never be able to do, the local flora and fauna thrive on. It is a different planet. He also made the observation that while we always talk about 70% of the Earth being water, in fact, if you look at biologically where creatures can live, over 90% of the Earth is water. We're living on two different planets. I was so consumed by what I was reading that I turned to my wife and said, "Honey, I want to write a short story about this and just sort of highlight what I've learned." So I sat down to write this short story, and 3 months later, and 400 pages later, I completed it. At that point, the Navy was beginning to indicate they were ready for me to go back to work. I thought, I want to see if there's another route for my life. So a friend of the family connected me with an agent in New York who had a good reputation for publishing books. And I met with her, and over coffee, she spent 35 minutes telling me why I was wasting my time, that the publishing industry was choking on new authors and new manuscripts, and that mine would be in a long queue of books that might be considered, and she thought I was wasting my time. At that point, the Navy went ahead and hired me, and the road not taken was left behind. I proceeded to serve in the Navy as a civilian for an additional 7 years. Meanwhile, the book sat on my computer until I started seeing articles in the Washington Post, not regular articles, but periodic articles, describing their fascination with the deep ocean as well. And I turned to my wife and I said, "Honey, I think it's time for me to revisit getting this book published. I've got to find someone who's willing to help me." 2 weeks later, in the class column of the Princeton Alumni Weekly, a classmate of mine, John Selby, who'd written several books, made an offer. "If any of you classmates have a book you want to see printed, let me know." I sent my manuscript off to him, and within just a couple of weeks, he responded, "Your book has wings." And therefore, we went ahead and started to work on it and spent most of 2023 making the book shorter and, as he also observed, more contemporary. The book simply didn't have the patina of modernity, if I can say that. It read like it was 25 years old. John observed that while I was focusing the book on these thermal vents that I'd been reading about in The Universe Below, that what I really needed to do was focus on deep sea mining. Because now that electric batteries are used for everything, and the deep sea has nodules of rare earth metals, copper, cobalt, manganese, and nickel, that are littered at the bottom of the ocean in sizes from grapefruit to golf balls. And the estimate is the bottom of the ocean has got trillions of dollars of rare earth metals if they can be accessed. So we shifted the book from the North Pacific, where I was doing vents, to the South Pacific off Hawaii and Mexico on the Clarion-Clipperton zone, which is loaded with these modules. The Clarion-Clipperton Zone is 1.7 million square miles of ocean floor. It invites people to want to mine it. And the challenge is how to do that best. We always have to face the issue of the ecology of the world and what it does, what we do to it. And we've seen what mining has done to the surface of the earth out of the ocean. And we have to be very careful what we do in the ocean. The bottom of the ocean has got marine life, the likes of which we have no idea. William Broad's comment was, we know a millionth of what's down there. There are creatures we've never seen and I'm totally unaware of. The events themselves have these creatures, octopus, large clams, tube worms, and other creatures that live in a hostile environment that puts them on another planet. So when we talk about mining the deep ocean, we've got to consider what it is we are doing and how we do it. One approach is to simply scrape the bottom, bring all the debris up to the surface, pick through it to get modules, and then dump the rest of it back in the water. That could be the most destructive thing we've ever done to our environment. The deep ocean has creatures in it that we don't even know exist, as I said, and some of them could be lifesavers, medically and in other forms. Likewise, we have to worry about what we do to the fishery industry on the surface. If we bring up all this sludge and then dump it back in the water, we not only are going to create a rainfall of debris for the bottom of the ocean, killing the marine life down there, but we'll also have lead and other metals on the surface of the water, and the fishing industry will suffer dramatically. So it's a critical issue, doing it right. The UN has an agency called the International Seabed Authority, which allocates ocean floor. The International Seabed Authority protects the economic zones of all the countries on the ocean littoral, and also is responsible for allocating the ocean floor internationally. For example, the Clarion-Clipperton Zone. China has gone ahead and been very aggressive in reserving ocean floor space. They have about 30% of the ocean floor reserved for the rare metals that it contains. We got confirmation in the Washington Post shortly before the book was published, in a front page article from the Washington Post. It said, Beijing is set to dominate the deep sea and its metals. The book is timely. It is just exactly what we need to consider, alerting people to the issues of deep ocean mining that otherwise are neglected by people who are concentrating on what we have to do here on the Earth's surface. I mentioned William Broad's The Universe Below. It is such a phenomenal read that I want to show it to you. And I'm sure he'll be grateful that I'm advertising his book as well. But you need to consider reading this book if you have any interest in the deep ocean and all the mysteries that it contains. This book is a tremendous read. I recommend it. In addition to suggesting that the book was too long and that I needed to make it tighter, John Selby also observed the book was ripe for a screenplay. Filming on a ship, it's a low-budget operation, the plot is engaging, and some of the information would be new to the viewer because of the subject matter.